Snowpiercer is the single most polarizing show that Netflix dropped on all of us this year. Half of those who watched season 1 can't sit still waiting for the next train adventure to come, while the other half are like, no, please, make it stop. There's really no telling if you'll end up enjoying the show until you've watched it, but if you are on the fence about starting a binge fest of the show because you're not sure it won't end up being a massive waste of time, keep on watching because in this video we're telling you everything you need to know about the 2020 Netflix series Snowpiercer. But first, a simple reminder on how to enter our brand new giveaway. We will be giving away either an iPhone X Max, the new iPad mini, or a MacBook Pro. It's all your choice. So be sure to leave a like, comment the keyword, subscribe, and turn on notifications to enter the giveaway. It's really that simple. Number 1. It's worlds apart from the film it's based on. So you've seen the 2013 Bong Joon-ho film that stars Chris Evans. It might even be on your top 5 greatest movies of all time. Well, you might have to temper your expectations going into the Netflix series. Not because it's a horrible adaptation per se, but because it takes quite a different route from the classic film. For starters, it doesn't even share the same timeline as the movie. The series is set in 2021, 7 years after the planet's last humans boarded Snowpiercer. Meanwhile, the film took place 17 years after they got aboard. This means the series can be considered a prequel to the movie. Just imagine, the preschoolers who are on the snowboarder in the TV show would have already been teenagers by the time the events on the film happened. Next up, the story of the mysterious Mr. Wilford was told way differently in the movie and in the series. If you've watched season 1, then you already know how big the reveal is about Wilford's character. So I don't want to spoil anything for those who have yet to make it to that part of the show, so let me just discuss what happens to Wilford in the movie. Mr. Wilford literally lords over the Snowpiercer in the movie, as he enjoys a life of luxury and power in his own private cabin. For the film's final act, Chris Evans shares a meal with a man. For those who have seen both the film and the TV show, TNT did a pretty awesome twist to the character, don't you think? Next, surprise, surprise, the Snowpiercer series is actually a murder mystery. Well, at least the first half of it is. Leighton, who is played by Hamilton's breakout star Daveed Diggs, was tasked to solve a shocking murder inside Snowpiercer, because apparently he was the last surviving homicide detective in this post-apocalyptic winter wonderland. It's how he gains access to the rest of the carriages even though he's a tail passenger. It's kinda different from how Chris Evans and his band of slummers simply plowed and hacked their way into first class, but it's every bit as intense and entertaining. Next, the film had a much clearer and arguably more satisfying ending. The ending sequence of the movie didn't leave anything unsaid, although it did give viewers a lot of things to discuss and ponder upon. On the other hand, season 1 of the series ended with a lot of loose ends still untied, and dozens of cans of worms left opened without resolution. Obviously, this has something to do with the fact that TV shows are always trying to achieve perpetuity, to score as many follow-up seasons as they can. Next, the Bong Joon-ho effect. It does feel like the huge disconnect between the Snowpiercer movie and its TV adaptation stems from the fact that filmmaker Bong Joon-ho distanced himself from the production of the series. Although he is, of course, named as an executive producer, he pretty much let showrunner Graham Mason do his thing. Number 2. Chaotic Project. Before all the hullabaloo about Avatar's original creator supposedly abandoning the Netflix adaptation, Snowpiercer held the record for having the messiest, most chaotic, and most controversial backstory. Here's what happened. TNT ordered a pilot episode for the series way back in 2016. They got Avatar's Josh Friedman to write the script, and Doctor Strange director Scott Derrickson to bring the script to life. Together, the two were supposed to run the show, so they worked on the project for 2 whole years and produced a pilot episode that apparently did not satisfy the higher-ups. The two veterans were asked to do heavy reshoots on the episode, but they decided to abandon the project when it became clear that the creative differences were too much. Imagine working on one episode for 2 whole years only to be told it wasn't good enough and you had to do all of it over again. Broken-hearted, both Friedman and Derrickson left the gig, and so the debut got pushed back for 2 more years. Graham Mason stepped in as a replacement showrunner, and he decided to start the pilot episode over from scratch. Obviously, this did not sit well with the original proponents of the project. Derrickson took to Twitter to express his disappointment. He wrote, "The 72-page Snowpiercer TV pilot script by Josh Friedman is the best I've ever read. The feature-length pilot I made from that script may be my best work. The new showrunner has a radically different vision for the show. I'm foregoing my option to direct the extreme reshoots." But Friedman himself was much less diplomatic and insinuated that Manson had to be either an idiot, a coward, or a curse word for taking over a show as showrunner without ever reaching out to the project's former runners. Yikes. We might never fully recover from the fact that there is an alternative version of the Snowpiercer pilot that we will never get to see. Anyhow, now let's get back to less awkward things. Number 3. Season 2 is coming soon. An entire year before Season 1 premiered, TNT has already given its nod to a second Snowpiercer season. In fact, Radio Times had reported that shooting for the next season had pretty much finished before the global health situation forced a global production shutdown. So, don't you worry about living your whole life not knowing what happens after Season 1's cliffhanger ending, because Season 2 is definitely coming and it might even arrive this year. Next, the casting for next season. Since we're sure that Season 2 will be dropping any time now, which characters are we expecting to see back on the show? Well, of course, Jennifer Connelly and Daveed Diggs would be back to play main characters Melanie Cavill and Andre Layton. But we're getting word that Stephen Ogg and Rowan Blanchard, who play Pike and Alexandra Cavill, are both getting promoted as series regulars for Season 2. Meanwhile, Deadline has confirmed that Sean Bean will join the cast as a regular since he will be playing Mr. Wilford. And we're pretty sure that Allison Wright, Mickey Sumner, Susan Park, and the rest of the ensemble will be returning to reprise their roles. Next up, Manson's timeline decision. If you're wondering why Manson decided to situate Snowpiercer just 7 years before the apocalypse started, the showrunner said he wanted to capture a fresher state of his character's wounds compared to the version shown in the 2013 movie. He said a gap of 17 years is way too long to expect the passengers of Snowpiercer to still remember, or much less be connected to, their pre-apocalypse life. He said, "We're only 7 years from the end of the world, and everybody still feels connected to what they lost. It's that time when you're trying to cut ties with the past, or holding on to it even tighter." Indeed, we see a lot of flashback sequences in the series, making us more attuned to everything these passengers lost, as well as the guilt they feel about not being able to save their loved ones from the snow that ended humanity as we know it. Next, Manson's pride and joy. If there's one part of the entire Snowpiercer series that made Manson incredibly proud about his work, it's the bit about the night car and what it represents. He told LARB, "It's that element from the movie where you open the door to the nightclub and you're like, how does this exist on a train? It's a place for performance, for the arts. It's kind of old school, a bit of a cabaret run by Lena Hill as Miss Audrey. It's a place people go to share their secrets. A Switzerland, the geographic center of the train. So there's intrigue there, but it's also healing and sensuality and arts and dancing and letting loose. They take people on a sensory journey that lets them reconnect with the end of the world and try to find ways to heal. It's abstract, a way to do some flashback to earlier times without being prescriptive narratively. It's not normal when we go there. It's more dreamlike. That's kind of amazing, right?" Next, a small trivia. In case you missed it, every episode in Season 1 is titled after a line from that iconic opening narration. Next, the science of it all. You've heard about the perpetual engine that keeps the train in constant motion. You've probably even peeked at the blueprints in the opening sequence called Eternal Engine. But do you have any idea why the Snowpiercer train can't ever stop moving? It's because of the impossible conditions of the apocalyptic setting of the show. In a nutshell, if the train would ever stop for more than 13 minutes, everyone inside it would freeze to death for sure. Next one, a split character in the series. Did you know that Ruth and Melanie were characters that didn't even exist in the movie? Instead, Tilda Swinton played the iconic role of Mason, who was both the voice of the train and the hands-on attendant who comes to visit the tail to conduct executions there. The character was split into two just for the series. Last but not least, Jennifer Connelly said her performance on Snowpiercer is like nothing she's ever done before. And even though the opening season received as much criticism as hearty praise, Connelly said she is proud of the show, most especially the thought that went into writing of her character. She told Gold Derby she's fighting for something she really believes in. The ultimate goal is really worthy and an important goal. Along the way, the means are very questionable, and for sure she does some morally reprehensible things. So, with that, we wrap up the video. Thanks for watching, and I hope you enjoyed it. I'll see you in the next one.